All right, let's talk about best documentary. I'm really curious to see where this goes. It might not have been the strongest year for documentary, but I do think there were a few gems
I
that I
think we
caught
just
up
didn't
with.
see enough, or maybe this is a
Maybe
distribution issue, because
could be.
so many
A little of
documentaries that
this, a
could
little of that, I think.
yeah, yeah. I think there were so
Yeah,
many potentially great ones that just didn't get the proper word of mouth or the proper
Yeah.
distribution.
yeah. For me, and I don't know if your guys' experience was this at all. I felt like throughout the year there wasn't much talk of anything documentary wise, not in any real meaningful way. It wasn't until I
I
was
blame
doing
Barbenheimer.
I don't know, but like once I started doing some year end catch up and looking at what others were talking about as far as best docs, then I caught up with them and I'm like, oh, there were some good documentaries this year. But I feel like unless you did that research, it was hard to really know because these films just weren't talked about all that much.
Yeah.
At any
Yeah,
rate,
So
yeah.
getting to that, I think it's a combination again of, Netflix. You can normally count on them having like 2 or 3 really popular documentaries every year. I think the pandemic probably made it harder to make documentaries for a couple years. So I think we're still kind of in the aftermath of that.
maybe that's what
But
it is. Yeah.
I'm going to pull a Ryan here to an even more extreme degree. I have 2 nominees for this category. Between a combination of
Wow. Okay.
I prioritized catching up on narratives at the end of the year and just it being, as far as just like things that people seem to have watched and really liked, a down year for documentaries. I saw 2 documentaries I liked this year. One was the film Still, a Michael J. Fox story on Apple.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other was a high school football documentary called BS High on Max, which was very good.
Okay. I
and-
think there are some we'll talk about, Jay. I am very confident you'll like to see.
I'm sure that is the
If
case.
it's a
Yeah.
timing thing, I very much understand it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is what it is as much as anything. But I am going to go with Still, the Michael J. Fox documentary, as my winner here. Very touching, heartfelt film that isn't really. I talked about how it seems like every popular documentary these days is a celebrity portrait, but this is a celebrity portrait that's really not afraid of looking at kind of the sharper edges of its central figure. And I really appreciated that. And it just like, I don't know, Michael J. Fox's wife, just one of the saints on this planet. So
Oh,
shout
sure.
out to her.
Yeah, yeah.
A really touching documentary for. I would not call myself a Michael J. Fox super fan by any stretch, but his story is very captivating, very emotional, and that's a movie that really makes you feel. So that's my winner. Still.
Okay. Ryan?
Yeah, I think that was like the only documentary that anyone really talked
Yeah.
About.
That was about the only
And
yeah,
Kind
it was
of,
a little
yeah.
real.
because that one and American Symphony, I think, are the ones that have been talked about the most.
And that was late, pretty late in the year.
And that was
Yeah.
late. And
I feel like a lot of people
movies
talked
that
about
I think
American
are-
Symphony primarily because of the John Baptiste of it all. Just the timing of him
Yes.
as a figure, I think, really helped push that.
Yeah, and I personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of either one of them, but I just thought that they were. I didn't learn really much new about the subject matter, but I think still it's a fine film, and American Symphony was a missed opportunity. I only nominated 3 because I was also trying to catch up on a lot of foreign language films, and I just didn't get to them. There's some that I want to catch up on, especially off of the short list that was just announced by the
Yeah.
Oscars. But Beyond Utopia, Four Daughters, and The Pigeon Tunnel. Those were the 3 that I
Okay.
did want to highlight. And I'm going with Beyond Utopia. I think that was like head and shoulders, like that was the one where I was just like, wow, this is actually pretty good. And it it packs a punch. I think both it and Four Daughters packs a punch by the end too. But particularly this is just it feels just, I don't know how they got this footage for Beyond Utopia. I mean, like it feels
It's
like
astonishing. Yeah.
it's astonishing. I mean, like this isn't recreations. This isn't like some sort of like, this isn't a flea situation or whatnot. Like, and I like the balance in it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think, but like the balance of it, of showing
Yep.
that it's not just all about the successes of getting out. It's also there are repercussions and failures.
That's the
I-
strength of it. To me, the
That is-
documentary lies on that.
Yeah, and then I think then for the audience, that makes your kind of heart start pounding. That really gets you to buy in, and I think that it was a really beautiful film, and that's
Yeah.
the one that I would give it to.
I'm just gonna kind of go backwards here and spoil this. Beyond Utopia is the only documentary I've seen this year that I think is great. It's the only one I actually truly really liked. Now there are other ones I did really like. I did like still a Michael J. Fox movie for the most part. That's also a nominee for me. And I also did really like Four Daughters and 20 Days in Mariupol. I think those are all very good films as well. So those are my 4 nominees. But I've seen other documentaries such as American Symphony, such as The Deepest Breath, such as Kokomo City that honestly I just didn't really care for. So I'm only going to include 4 nominees here, which include Beyond Utopia, 20 Days in Mariupol, Four Daughters, and Still. But Beyond Utopia I think is far and away the best one. I think it's a really great experience. It almost has like this procedural thriller kind of vibe to it. It kind of reminded me a bit of like a Paul Greengrass film, if that's any kind of like weird comparison I can make it to. But and that's not to say a movie like this needs to be thrilling in that way, but the fact that it has such a guerrilla style that really just lends itself to that truth and the story that it's really, really powerful. It really is a great documentary. I think easily the best one that I've seen so far this year.
Okay. It appears I have done the most homework on this category.
Well, I tried doing homework, and every time I got to something that people said was good, I didn't care for. Like Kokomo City, everyone says they really like. I did not like that at all.
I don't think. Here's just a spoiler question. Does anybody have a documentary in their top 20?
Beyond
I have
Utopia is
one that's
close.
I have one that's close.
Yeah. So none. I mean, with none,
No, I don't.
which is crazy.
No, it's not the greatest year on the whole. I will say my top 2 I struggled with similarly to Spider-Verse and The Boy and the Heron. I think the top 2 docs for me rose to the top quite easily. I'm on the other side of it than Brennan. I think Kokomo City is quite great. For me, that's one of the more interesting docs of the year because there's nothing conventional about how that's shot, framed, told. And it's
That's
got
the
an
problem
energy
I
that's
have with
infectious.
it. It's so suffocating. It's almost afraid to tell those stories.
See, I would take that 1,000 times over the convention of something like.
I think that needed more
Still.
convention. Yeah.
Or the Pigeon Tunnel. Like I like the experimentation of Kokomo City quite a lot, and it's infectious. The energy of it is really compelling. So, Beyond Utopia, Four Daughters, Kokomo City are nominees for me. 20 Days in Mariupol is a film I'm never going to watch again, but it's very.
Neither would
effective
I.
in what it's trying to
That is
do.
powerful. That is powerful.
my
You
God.
gave that to me last minute. It's like I don't know if I want to watch
Yeah,
this.
that was
subject
kind of the
matter
one where I
now.
was like, do I want to watch
It's
the new
it's a
Pencil
tough
film
watch.
or
It's
the
bleak.
movie about the Ukraine? I'm like,
It is
Yeah.
and almost
extremely bleak, but-
name a movie, and it was or the movie about Ukraine, and I would take the other one.
Yeah, no, look, it's a tough watch. It's a hard ask of anybody to watch that movie, but it like Grave of the Fireflies, its bleakness is the point. And it's very effective in that regard. So that's a nominee for me here. And then my last one, my 5th of these 5 is The Deepest Breath from Laura McGann. This category, though, for me came down to Beyond Utopia and Four Daughters. I agree with you guys. Beyond Utopia is excellent. It's fantastic. And similarly with Spider-Verse, that was easily going to be my winner up until a few days ago. And, like Boy and the Heron coming in kind of last minute and challenging Spider-Verse. That's what Four Daughters did for me with Beyond Utopia. And that is my winner. Four Daughters
I can
blew
understand
me
that.
away.
Yeah.
This is the rewards of doing some of this homework last minute, I guess, because I don't know if I would have caught up with this without preparing for this award show, but I'm glad that I did because I was stunned by this movie. It's essentially a mother and her 2 remaining daughters recreating pivotal moments of their lives that allow them to therapeutically confront the traumas they've experienced, particularly as it relates to 2 other daughters of Ulfa's leaving the family to join ISIS. So you have these 3 individuals actively opening deep, deep wounds and allowing the artistic process to say something about who they are as a result of this tragedy. It is very Dick Johnson is dead. It is very much in that vein.
Yeah.
And similarly, it's an emotionally blistering watch as you see this family confront their traumas in a real way. It's not always emotionally overwhelming. Sometimes they're having fun reminiscing. There's a lot of laughing and jokes to be made. But when they actually start the scene, when action is told, I could not help but think of something about the prowess of Dick Johnson as dad. I think this is doing something very similar, but in its own unique way that taps into its specific culture. And it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. There's some politics to it as well that I think are embedded in a remarkable way. And the characters, I mean, without getting too much into it, but the people in front of the camera, sophisticated, complicated, relatable, human, all of the above. It's a remarkable movie.
It's my number 2 of the documentaries that I listed for my nominees. And you mentioned Dick Johnson is Dead as a comparison. I was actually thinking a lot about Joshua Oppenheimer's The Act of Killing.
Yeah, it's
just
that as well. That's another.
Yeah, the way that it
comparison.
like it plays with form in a very psychological way. By putting these subjects back into those places in a very bold and challenging and kind of devastating way. So I found that really interesting as well.
And I think that's where the pretentious side of me just kind of gave weight to this film, because like I love Beyond Utopia. Like you walk away from that film going, as Ryan noted, how did they get that footage?
Yeah.
How like it's remarkable how it goes about its business. There's something about how Four Daughters uses art, like the artistic process, that just captivated me a little bit more. Like to me, it just went slightly deeper into its premise for me. But again, like that's nitpicky kind of stuff because they're both great. They're both great, but that was the difference for me in the end.
Very good film. Very good film.
It ended up being a decent year overall for documentaries than I think its overall reputation seems to suggest. But again, unless you're doing the homework, you're not going to see or know about these movies. That's really the main problem.
Yeah, that's fair.